The most common problem that I see with students is they make a backswing that is way too short and way too slow, and then they accelerate through. They hit putts way too hard, or they add way too much force in the downswing that causes very inconsistent ball speeds. Now, the problem when we add a bunch of force as well is when we try to go fast and push it really hard, we're generally going to manipulate this putter face a ton too. As soon as we get manipulating the putter face, that's going to impact our directional control. So now if we can't control the pace or the direction, you can see why a lot of these putts don't end up very close to the hole. One problem that I find is a lot of golfers, their concepts don't match up with reality. What they have been told or what they have heard is to not decelerate when they putt. This alone, I find, creates massive problems for a ton of golfers. They've been told not to decelerate, so in their minds, what they're trying to do is accelerate through. So what you see is these strokes where the backswing and the follow-through are drastically different. You might see a follow-through that's 2 or 3 times longer than the backswing with some very, very inconsistent ball control. So understanding the right concepts, understanding what works the best is something that can really help your putting. And this is something that if you watch golf on TV, you will see putting strokes that have pace to the backswing, and then they have an abrupt follow-through. You won't see putting strokes that feel like they extend down the line. What I see on the average green out of the club is, again, I see short backswings and these long follow-throughs that seem to chase the ball towards the hole. Compared to what we see on TV or with the best putters in the world, we see a nice, faster paced backswing, but it's got a decent amount of length, and then the putter stops on the follow-through. What you notice when we hit putts like this, the ball rolls truer. We start to manage our start line a lot better, so they stay on line, but it's way more consistent, way more easy to control the pace of your putter, which then controls the pace of the ball. All of these things lead to us having better and better speed control. What we want to work on when we're putting to control this is use something that gives you some feedback. The simplest thing we have here is just our feet. When we get set up, you're going to notice your feet should be roughly shoulder width apart. That's a good reference for our putting. And then from there, the ball should be in front of middle. If we're going to get set up, the putter should be at worst in the middle of our stance, so it kind of hangs underneath our centers, in front of the center of your sternum, center of your pelvis, center of your head. We want to feel like these all line up, and then the ball will be just in front of that. Really simple in terms of a setup. Now, when we have this position, what we should feel like is if our putter goes back to the edge of one foot, it should stop at the edge of the other foot. For most people, this feels like they're stabbing at it or they're decelerating, and in reality, they're not. They're just controlling the pace. When we hit these putts, we want to feel like the putter is falling into the ball or gliding through impact, not accelerating through, okay? When we measure the best players in the world, what we notice is there is very little, if not zero, acceleration through impact. Now, this doesn't mean they're slowing down. It doesn't mean they're decelerating. It doesn't mean they're guiding and manipulating their strokes into the ball. They're just allowing gravity to take over. They're allowing the putter to fall in, and then by the time that ball's gone, we do not need to be adding any more force. Okay, this is really, really important to know that the putter can fall into the ball, and we don't have to continue to push it through. Okay, so when you go to work on it, you can make some practice swings that are really simple and just feel like the putter goes back to the outside of one foot, stops at the outside of your lead foot. Okay, if you make a bunch of practice swings like that, again, back and stop, you should notice you start to develop a little bit more flow and rhythm. What we don't want to do is putt carefully. I see a lot of people, when they try and make this follow through, is then they go really slow, and then the putter doesn't have enough speed. Putter speed is what's going to control how fast this ball goes, so that's why we need to make sure we keep up the pace, okay? Slow and careful backswings when we're putting lead to trouble. If the putter goes back too slow, now we have to add a bunch of force because there's no energy in the stroke. We need to make sure that the putter moves back with enough pace so that we can let it fall into the ball and then stop on the follow through. It may feel real different, and that's okay. What we tend to notice when golfers make this change is the first couple putts, they take the putter back further, and then they still add a little bit of force so they hit them quite hard. That's okay. Don't worry about that on the first couple putts. Again, you'll develop a little bit of rhythm to that. So we're going to get in here. You're going to make a couple practice strokes. You're gonna feel like the putter goes back to, say, the outside of your right foot or your trail foot, and then feel like it should stop on the outside of your lead foot or your left foot if you're a right-handed golfer. Make a few strokes here. Try and get some rhythm to it. Again, most putters, what I see when they struggle is they don't move fast enough. Their putting strokes get too slow and too static. So you feel like there's a little bit of pace to it, back and forth. Have a feel, then step up to the ball and see what happens. See if you can manage how far back and how far through the putter goes, and be aware of how the putter comes off, or how the ball comes off the putter face. We'll do that again. Get set up. Some nice backswings where I'm just managing how far back and how far through the putting goes. It doesn't need to be exact. Just a symmetrical stroke in terms of backswing and follow through should help you out. So then you step back in, feel like the putter goes back to the outside of your trail foot, stops just outside your lead foot, and see where the ball ends up. As you're working and practicing this, what you want to feel like when you look at where the balls go, they should start ending up in a certain spot. If the putter is moving the same length and the pace of the putter is similar, they should go roughly the same distance. This is the first thing we want to do to check ourselves, okay? Just using your feet. Then what you can do is you can set up a little station. The first way you can do it is have a marker for where your ball would be, and then set up something that's equal distance on each side. I wouldn't recommend going to a hole when you're starting this, because I'd rather you find a distance that the putter is going to move and then let the balls end up where they go. Okay, so I'm going to move these. I'm going to go about a foot on either side. Okay, so that's about 1 foot here. If I go to the other side, and I'll often do this with my students, where I'll actually shorten the front tee to exaggerate this feel. Sometimes when we're working on something, it's okay to exaggerate the feel to help it sink in. So now I've got a station here where I'm going to feel like I go back to the tee, to this tee here, and it's going to stop at this tee on the way back. And I'm just going to make a bunch of little practice strokes here and feel where that putter can stop. I want to feel like the putter is falling into the ball. Again, I've created enough energy on the way back. The putter can fall or glide into impact, and then it'll follow through and stop at that next tee. Making a bunch of strokes here without a ball to get this feel can be really helpful. Sometimes the visual is really necessary so we can tell how far back the putter's going. Then I'll bring a ball in. I'll get set up. Okay, the ball's in the middle. I feel like the putter goes back to the tee, stops at the first tee, and see how the ball comes off. So there, I've got the ball set up again. I'll make a couple practice swings, back and forth. Feel like the putting stroke is the same distance. By this point in time, I should have an idea of roughly how far they're going. But what I'm really looking for here is I want to see if I can maintain the pace. I've got some feedback here so I can tell how far back and how far through the putter's going. And then I want to see if I can get these balls to go about the same distance. Okay, so these are coming out there into a pretty good spot. In terms of speed control, what we're looking for when you're playing, the 10% number is a good barometer as to how good your speed control is. If you can get your putt within 10% of the total distance, that's some elite level speed control. So if you're 20 feet away and your ball stops within 2 feet of that hole, you've done a really good job. If you're putting from 40, 50, 60 feet away all the time and you're getting within 10%, you're doing a really good job. Sometimes I see players who they don't quite understand how difficult it might be, and they might be putting from, again, 40, 50, 60 feet away, and they're not quite getting it inside that number, which, like I said before, that's an elite level of speed control, and then they're missing, the 6, 7, 8 foot putts. And it's really more a factor of how far away you're hitting the ball from the hole and not your putting. So again, we're going to get set up in here, and I want you to manage this backswing and the follow through. You probably can't make enough practice strokes with this feel. Again, what I see a lot of is short, accelerated follow through. Short and slow, accelerated follow through. So this is an example of one station you could do. It's really simple. It's just with a couple tees using your feet. I measured out with my shoes. Another example, something that I love, is using, this is a ruler. This is the towel from Short Game Gains. And what's great about it is it's got marks on each side. So it's got marks from 3 inches, 6 inches, 9 inches, 12 inches on each side. So now what I'm going to do with this towel, I'm going to set this up. So Now I'll set up and I'll make some varying stroke lengths, okay? This would be putts on the shorter range of things. If I'm only going back 6 inches to 6 inches, that's going to be a really short putt. But again, it's really important even on these short putts to maintain the pace to the stroke. I see a lot of people miss short putts because their stroke length gets a little bit short and way too slow, okay? So now I'll go maybe 6 inches back and forth. Then I might go to 9 inches, and I'm just trying to build some feel and some rhythm into the stroke. Then if I go all the way back to the edge of the towel where we got about 12 inches, I'm just trying to feel the putter flowing back and forth. Really simple. I'm not trying to get too complicated with it. I'm using the feedback of this towel on the ground to let me know how far back it's going. And then as I go to, maybe I'll take some where they go even further, because that's the other thing. I see way too many people whose putter never go back past a certain point. And a lot of times that might be to the outside of their trail foot. Doesn't matter if the putt's 30, 40, 50, 60 feet. They're never going to go They're never going to go back past that point, and then they're just continuing to add force as the putts get longer. On a longer putt here, I might need to feel that this putter's going back, maybe 6 inches or a foot past the towel. That'd be a long putt, but I need to get the feel of that length on the way back. Again, I'm using this towel to help me feel and see the distance of the stroke. Then I'll set up a ball, get set up in here, and I'm going to feel like I'm going to go 12 to 12 here. And see how the ball comes off. Okay, get set up in here again. Feel like I just go 12 to 12. And see how these balls end up. What I can see is they're ending up in a nice little patch out here where they're one on top of another. I want to get a feel for contact so that I'm striking putts well. That's another area where people tend to struggle, or they aren't quite sure. They miss-hit putts and kind of wonder why their speed control isn't as good. When we're not manipulating the face through impact, and by that I mean we're not forcing it, pushing the putter, hitting it, again, extra hard, accelerating through, we tend to manipulate the putter face less, which allows us to hit it out of the center more often. Again, I'll set up in here. I'm going to go 12 to 12. Feel the putter falls into the ball, and I've got a really nice little grouping out there. So these putts, so the center of my grouping here is about 15 feet, okay? And so here's another way you can then go and get yourself ready to play. If you know how far a 12-inch backstroke to 12-inch follow-through, or again, without the towel, that's basically to the outside of one foot and then to the outside of the other foot. If you know how far that normally goes, so say a static measurement on your home course, on your putting green, for me on this range, that was about 15 feet. Now I can walk out onto any green and I can make my putting stroke where it's that 12-inch back, 12-inch through, or outside of my foot to the outside of the foot, and I can see how far the ball goes. I can pace it off and measure it, and then I can tell if the greens are faster that day or if they're slower that day, and I can calibrate or acclimatize myself to the speed of those greens. Again, this is, I believe, just about the most important thing when it comes to putting. It's the ability to manage our speed. If you can give yourself a way to calibrate it, and again, that easiest way to manage the speed of the putter is with the length of the stroke. If you can develop a stroke that can match up in terms of backswing and follow through, your chances of hitting putts the correct distance go up exponentially. Then from there, if you can manage to have some consistent cadence or tempo or rhythm, whichever we'd like to see, or whatever you want to call it, then you're really going to have a good chance of hitting putts the correct distance, as well as being able to adapt to different green speeds or different conditions way quicker. This is something that I would say, if you struggle with your screen or your speed control, do this before every round. Just go practice hitting some putts with the distance or with the symmetrical stroke length back and forth, and see where the putts go. You could go inside of your feet, go outside of your feet, go even further. And what you're going to start to notice is balls come off better and better. Again, making sure you understand conceptually what we're talking about here is usually the first step, because I see a lot of people who they have these short backswings and really long follow-throughs, and the number one thing they're trying not to do when they putt is they're trying not to decelerate. So if we can give ourselves some feedback, I gave you examples of a couple different stations to manage or to control or to be able to see how far back and how far through the putting stroke is going through, you should notice that your speed control gets better and better. More putts end up around the hole and more putts end up in the hole. Let me know how this feels. Let me know if it makes sense. I'm very curious to see the feedback when it comes to a really simple putting station or practice station like this. And again, if you enjoy this, go ahead and like this channel, subscribe to it, comment below, because I'm really keen on putting together some videos that are going to help you as golfers. And so the more feedback we can get, the more it's going to help. So do me a favor, get engaged with my channel here and see if we can help you on your way to some lower scores. This is some golf instruction that in my mind should hope to feel good. It should be some practice tips that are really simple. They're not too complicated, that anybody can do. And again, the short game, especially the putting, I think it's the low-hanging fruit in terms of the game of golf. So see if this can help you out and let me know how you feel. Thanks a lot for coming on. Have a good day.